So it's Q&A day, which means that we're doing a Q&A. Yeah, that was probably self-explanatory. Do I do this again? Nah, can't be bothered. We're rolling with it. Why the hell does anyone still watch this channel? Anyways, might as well jump into the first question of today. No reason to waste any more of your time, right? Our very first question comes from Godzillanid. I don't know how to pronounce that. And they ask, what is your favorite part of Jojo? I feel like I may have answered this before, but then again, thinking back on it more, I might not have, and it was probably on a live stream like 3 years ago. So for the sake of the fact that this was probably the most liked comment on the Q&A post, my favorite part of Jojo would have to be part 4. The reason for this is not anything really that special about it, to be totally honest. It was more so that it was such a sort of tonal shift going from part 1, 2, and 3 over to 4 that I really enjoyed it, and I just loved the overall laid-back, like, slice-of-life atmosphere that the vast majority of the part seems to take place in. While parts 1 through 3 are definitely all very different in their own rights, they also tend to sort of blend together a lot in my mind with this almost we need to go on an adventure to stop the big bad vibe, which is fine, to be clear. I don't dislike parts 1 through 3, far from it, but at the end of the day, it just took such a huge pivot turn from 3 to 4, and I watched all of Jojo in succession after all of the parts up until 5 were out. And so because of that, I was getting a little fatigued after getting through part 3, and so when I got to 4, I was like, wow, this is really interesting, and it pulled me back in, and that's when I ended up finishing out the whole series. Or at least the whole series that was animated as of the time that I was watching it. It also helps that I'm kind of a sucker for seeing characters that were a lot younger before, mature, and just become better people, and Jotaro is one of my favorite characters in JoJo. Yeah, stereotypical, yeah, boring, I don't care. And so seeing his development from the beginning of part 3 all the way up until part 4, and especially part 6, although that's not super relevant to the discussion here, was interesting in its own right, and at the end of the day, fan service is called fan service for a reason. And so being able to see some of my favorite characters come back in more cameo, less hands-on roles, but still being present was just super cool. Overall, I loved part 4, I loved the cast, I loved the storylines, and it was just a really fun watch. The next question is from Daisy Solos 27, and it asks, what's your favorite thing to do in any of the Battlefield games? It's a bit of a tricky question to ask. I think on its whole, the thing that I do the most and therefore probably enjoy the most is playing in an infantry squad that's well coordinated with my friends, and it's one of the reasons that I've honestly really been enjoying the Battle Royale mode, because that's almost entirely a squad-focused shooter where you need to be working together with your team, and it usually doesn't involve too many vehicles unless you can get a hold of a key card for one. And even when you do, you still need to be working together with your teammates who aren't in the vehicle to make it work. When it comes to multiplayer, it's quite the same though. I think there's just nothing quite like having a well-coordinated infantry squad going around and crushing the lobby with just your own merits and working together. Outside of that, if I don't have people to play with or the vibes just aren't there for a good communicative infantry game, then I'll end up flying a plane or something, because flying planes is definitely my second favorite thing to do in the game, hands down. There's nothing quite like being able to do a strafing run on like a singular infantry guy and blowing them away with the chain gun on the front of the plane. It's funny every single time. And it's also just neat to be able to have a huge bird's eye view of the entire battle going on and taking part in it intermittently instead of being constantly in the action. Our third question of the day comes from Herobrine Game Master, who has a pretty long question. It says, when playing video games, do you care more about the stories that you can tell your friends later, or getting crazy plays that you can clip and show your friends? I don't know what I'm even trying to get at, to be honest. At the time of writing this, I'm hella sleep deprived, but it feels like I'm the only one that actually cares about immersion and making a fun narrative to retell later, and just wanted to know if there was even the slightest chance you felt the same. And then they had a game suggestion that I'll probably never play. Sorry, bud. Anyways, the question pertains to when I play games, do I try to almost make stories that I can tell my friends later? Well, honestly, not really, and a lot of that comes from the fact that at the end of the day, most of the time that I spend playing games on my off time is not spent playing by myself. Most of the time I spend playing games alone is directly for this YouTube channel that you're watching right now. When I jump on to play games, when I'm finished with my work for the day, it's almost always playing with somebody else. So the story would be literally playing with those people. As As for the other topic of whether or not I try to go for crazy plays and stuff, not really on purpose. Sometimes those things just happen, and because I've always got a replay buffer enabled on OBS, I'll just record it and save it, and if it's worthy of sharing, then I will, and if not, it'll collect dust for a little bit and then generally just get deleted. To give a little bit more of an in-depth answer on your question, though, on what I tend to do when I play games, a lot of it comes down to ticking boxes and grinding for stuff, which I know for me probably sounds wrong based on a lot of people's games that I've played and videos that I've made about them, but the thing that you have to understand is that there's a very stark contrast between optional grinding that you can do to tick boxes, whereas the progression of the game is reasonable, versus required grinding that you have to do to even get to a point where you're functionally viable. And this is something a lot of people will never understand, and so when they see that I have like all of the tier 1 badges in 2042, for example, they'll be like, well, why the hell did you do that? I thought you hated grinding. And it's like, no, I'll grind for something if it's like a stupid cosmetic that doesn't really matter, but I'm not going to sit there and spend a whole bunch of time grinding to do default progression, because if that's the way that the game is going to portray itself, then I'm going to quit pretty early and I'm not going to put the time into it. But now I feel like we've basically non-sequitured onto a completely different question, so let's move on. The next question is from Jesus himself. Damn, I'm moving up in the world. And they say, what are your top 3 Roblox games of all time? I wouldn't say that I have a top 3 Roblox games of all time necessarily, but just off of the top of my head, the first ones that come to mind immediately are Titan Warfare, which makes me a little sad, all things considered, with that game and what happened to those people, god damn it. Block Tales, which I feel like is a really obvious one that I can throw on there, along with Steel Crossfire, previously Transformers Crossfire, which is just a really fun game that I've put a lot of time into and I've really enjoyed. Like I said, those 3 games aren't necessarily the top 3, but those are the first 3 Roblox games that came to my head at the current moment in time, and so if for some reason you haven't played any of those, maybe sans Titan Warfare, considering that that game's probably dying off pretty hard right now, if I could imagine, and is completely abandonware because they all moved on to Jujutsu Infinite. But yeah, those games are great and I highly recommend them. The next question was really cool and I wanted to talk about it because it was pretty in-depth, and it's from Sergeant Invictus, and they say, for aspiring game developers, would you encourage them to stick with Roblox to make it a better platform, or to prioritize learning a new engine and jump ship? Feels like nothing worth talking about with the recent frustrations of the quality of games we currently have. What do you think? This is a very complicated question, and there's not an easy answer here, and that's why I wanted to put it on here. A lot of people have sent me the question before of, if all of these developers are putting so much time into Roblox, but there's all of these fundamental problems on Roblox, things like the netcode, for example, making it so that way making a first-person or a third-person shooter is a death sentence on the platform, as it's never going to be anywhere near as good as an actual shooter because of just the foundational stuff you're working with when it comes to hit detection, then why don't these developers go and make off-platform games? Why do they put them on Roblox? And there's actually a lot of reasons for this. The first and most simple is that a lot of people start their development journey just as a whole on Roblox, and not only do they start it here, but they also end it here. Whether it be just jumping in to code a stupid game for 2 weeks and then never touching coding again, or working on a project for 4 or 5 years at a time where they started knowing pretty much literally nothing, and by the time it's 4 to 5 years later, it's a sunk cost fallacy situation where they've been working on it for so long that they can't rationalize abandoning it. Which is hilarious saying that because that's pretty much where I'm at with my game at the moment. But the other thing to take into consideration on why Roblox as a platform has so many games being created on it, and why developers don't just jump ship to make their own games, is that the reality of the day is that Roblox has a user base that's already there and already available. And so when it comes to things like marketing and whatnot, you don't need to do anything. If you wanted to go make your new indie game on Steam without any backing whatsoever, and you were a one-man project, good luck getting people to talk about it. And not only that, if you wanted to try to use any sort of intellectual property that you didn't have the rights to, yeah, good luck with that. And the final thing to consider when it comes to making stuff on Roblox is that the barrier to entry here is so much lower. When you go to make a Roblox game, a lot of the stuff that you need to work with in order to make the game function is already there. What a lot of people who don't code games, or not even if they don't code games, but they just don't have a super good understanding of how to code games, will likely never really quite grasp the weight of, is the fact that while I just finished talking about how shitty Roblox's networking is, that networking exists. Not only does the networking exist, but the movement systems exist. There's a lot of baseline stuff that Roblox does for you before you even begin that would all have to be coded from scratch if you were making your own game, or pretty damn close to it. So with all that, I think you're probably starting to understand why a lot of people use Roblox as a platform to develop games versus going off platform. But then the question would be asked, is it worth going off platform? And I think my answer in most cases for most people is, unfortunately, probably not. But the other almost pseudo question that you asked in this question is when it comes to why are games so bad on Roblox, and the reason is that Roblox rewards the worst behaviors on this platform. It rewards player retention, which means making people grind and play for a long time is directly rewarded by the game's systems themselves. It rewards making a lot of money, as if your game makes a lot of money, it's more likely to be pushed, once again encouraging shady business practices and exploitative tactics. The reason Roblox is a shithole is mostly due to Roblox's systems itself and not necessarily the developers on it. Because there are millions of games that are good on the platform and hundreds of thousands of developers making good games. A lot of them just get buried because if you're not playing and gaming the system, you're not going to succeed, which sucks, but that's the way it is. The next question is from Joggler Toggler, who says, with Roblox's new age bracket system, will it affect your videos at all? I didn't know about this at all until I just read this comment. So I actually went and took a look at the new age bracket system, which isn't very new. I think it came out last month, and this is one of the biggest I told you so's in the history of I told you so's. So I told you so. For those of you maybe a little curious as to what I'm talking about, or more importantly, what even is the age bracket chat system on Roblox, well, effectively, what they appear to have done is made it so that way, depending on your account age on Roblox, you're not going to be able to chat with people in the in-game chat, depending on what their age range is. So for an account like mine that's over 21, if there's someone on the game that's 12, for example, and I send a chat message, they won't be able to see it, and vice versa. Now, a clueless moron might say, well, why would you want to be talking with a 12-year-old anyway? Which people are definitely going to take out of context now that I've said it. But if you genuinely believe and have just said this on a video game platform where talking and communicating with people can be paramount to your success, and there are people of hugely varying age ranges on these different games, you can probably start to see why this is a problem. Now the question then becomes, why did they make this change? And this is where the I told you so comes in. You see, a couple months ago, I think at this point, there was the entire schlep drama going down about child predators, and Roblox was getting litigated and put under a bunch of pressure to actually do something about child predators. And one of the things that I said in my video that was very tempered about the topic and made a lot of people upset because I didn't just jump onto a bandwagon and say a bunch of emotionally charged bullshit and actually looked at things objectively, is the fact that a lot of changes that could be made to the game to try to alleviate a lot of these child predator issues would directly hurt the players of the games themselves, less so than it's going to hurt the predators, and I think this is an absolutely fantastic example of exactly that. I'm sorry if this puts me under fire, but I don't care. The age bracket chat system is a direct detriment to Roblox as a platform and makes the platform and overall experience for a large portion of users worse. But it's happening because of all of the drama and because a bunch of people were like, where's the solution? Well, here's your solution. It sucks. It makes the game worse for everyone, but you did it, guys. Good job. Mission accomplished. I tip my hat to you. Now, as to whether or not this is going to change my videos, of course not. I barely chat on the Roblox chat as it is. The most that I've used the chat for in the last several months is talking to people in my own game, asking about bugs or glitches. And most of the reports that I get about that stuff are on my Discord anyway, a platform that is supposed to be age-gated to, I believe, 13 plus, but this is the internet where people can lie about their age anyway, so I'm never gonna know how old the people I'm talking to actually are. All I care about is whether or not they've reported a bug or not. So it doesn't directly affect my videos, but I do think it's a net negative for the platform, and it's a shame that all of this bullshit is going to end up hurting a lot of people's experiences, whether they know it or not. The next question is from Inspect01, and they say, "Hi Eclipse, I recently rewatched your Subnautica series, loved it by the way, and was wondering if you ever had plans to make a Below Zero and or Subnautica 2 video when it comes out." Well, I'm definitely going to do Subnautica 2 whenever it comes out, so that's an assured thing, but as for Below Zero, I actually already did a series on that game, or more specifically, I did 2 videos on it because I didn't want to do a whole big series and occupy all of my uploads for like 2 months like I did for the first Subnautica game. I think they're in a playlist right now. They might be in the Subnautica playlist, they might be in their own playlist. I'm actually not entirely sure. If I did forget to make a playlist and it's not there, let me know in the comments and I'll go make one. But yeah, that already happened, so if you want to go check out my Below Zero playthrough, you're welcome to do so. Next question is from server X9I, and they say favorite movie, to which I would respond once again with my favorite games that I don't have one. I don't really watch too many movies as it is, but in terms of movies that I've watched recently, I guess an easy one would be that I saw Klaus not too long ago, which is a really nice, just feel-good animated movie. So if you're having a rough time, you're in a dark place, I mean, it's around the holidays anyway, I highly recommend that movie. It's really enjoyable, it's very heartwarming, it's just a nice time, and so yeah, I guess I would go with that in terms of recent memory. But as for my favorite movie of all time, yeah, I don't really have one, as I'm not really a huge consumer of movies on a general sense. Next question is from YesNU9ZH, who says, "Some of your BF6 videos have been doing really well lately. Congratulations, by the way. You always said that if you could do whatever you wanted with the YouTube channel, then you sure as hell wouldn't be on Roblox. Ain't that the truth?" So maybe now's an indication of that being a possibility. This is a very complex thing, and I almost hesitated to even put it on here. I've hesitated even talking about my BF6 stuff and my second channel and stuff like that, mostly because don't take this the wrong way, but I don't want Roblox people over there, because the way that YouTube's algorithms and stuff work is that the more Roblox people I have watching my second channel, the less likely it is to continue to do well, so I've neglected mentioning it a lot due to that. And the reasons for that are pretty simple. I've explained them in different videos many times over, but if you want the Cliff Notes version, if someone who watches Roblox watches a Battlefield video and then YouTube sees that, then they look at what my general viewer base on the Battlefield video watches, and if they find Roblox, they recommend it to Roblox people. Roblox people don't watch it, then it gets recommended to nobody, and then it dies dead in the water. Anyways, as for what I'm going to do with the current channel situation and stuff like that, it's really complex, and if you want my full transparent honesty, if this had happened like, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years ago, I would slowly but surely lessen the uploads on this current main channel until eventually it was probably just abandoned and shift entirely over to my second channel. Because the reality of the day is that I've been playing shooters for my entire life. I enjoy shooters and have a ton of passion that's seemingly limitless that goes on forever. And so I want nothing more than to be able to play those games for as long as I can and talk about those games and be successful. But the reality of the day is that the me that currently exists now is not the me from 2 years ago. And one of the biggest things that's changed since then and now is the current production of my own game on the Roblox platform. Really, the game right now is basically my anchor to this channel and to Roblox itself, and I'm not saying that as some sort of woe is me, I'm stuck, because I genuinely enjoy most of the stuff that surrounds working on my game. It's really stressful, don't get me wrong, and feels hopeless a lot of the time, but being able to see people play and enjoy the things that I've created has been some of the most enjoyable and most happy I've been in a long time. And so because of that, I really want to make it work to the best of my ability. And even if we launch way later than we're going to, which is very likely, as I've already explained, the entire game is basically getting recoded from scratch. And because of that, the initial release date of, I think I said late spring next year, is very unlikely. It'll probably be more like around this time next year, but who knows what's going to happen on that front. Regardless, it's been really cool to work on it. I've spent a lot of time on it, and I don't want to just outright abandon it. And so outright abandoning it goes hand in hand with keeping this channel running, as part of the backbone of the game is still my own YouTube channel. It's what's going to end up bankrolling stuff when it comes to hiring people to work on it, as well as the fact that it obviously works as our sort of PR and marketing right now. The other factor is, of course, that I have no idea how long some of the stuff over on the second channel is going to continue to even be remotely successful. A lot of the success currently on that channel hinges directly on Battlefield 6 and how successful that game was. And I can already see, based on my view numbers, that as interest goes down for Battlefield 6, so do the views. When the game first came out, it had around 500,000 concurrent players every single day, down to 100,000 now, which, for the record, for a Battlefield game is absolutely unheard of and really, really high. But the numbers don't lie. We've lost a lot of players, and because of that, we've lost a lot of interest. And so when I put out videos for tier lists for different weapons, and the views have a sharp decline, very reminiscent of the decline of the player count of the game, well, it starts to make sense. It's also complex in the fact of I'm only uploading one video a week over there, and if I was uploading more, I would almost certainly have more traction, but I'm not doing that once again because I'm running the other channel and trying to make my game work. That's the biggest struggle, by the way, if you're curious on where the game's at right now, is making the fucking thing work. I'm not gonna get too far into that because then we'll be here all day, but work is being done, even if it's very slow. The latest thing was projectiles and how they function with network receive. We didn't have an understanding at all of how important network receive was before we started, and so it's something that we're trying to look into now, and projectiles, we're bumping up the network receive up to the upper 800s with some sort of issues on the last playtest. So we, or more specifically my brother, I haven't done shit because I have no idea what I'm doing on that front, has rewritten the system about 4 or 5 times now, and we're finally at a point where we think it's working, but something happened in between working on those projectiles that has broken grabs now, so that needs to get fixed today, and it's a whole mess. But it's being worked on, I promise you. It's not just sitting there with nothing being done, it's just very slow, as it's only the two of us, and honestly really only the one of us as it stands right now. Once that stuff is done, I'll start getting into working on some more stuff and things will go better, but I've already talked about this too long, as I said I wasn't going to get into it. As for the final question of the day, we can talk about a question from Economy Tower, who says, what do you think about other Roblox critics like Bredian, Bedsheet Ghost, and Cumin? I'm sorry, who? No, I'm kidding. Well, I'm not kidding. I had never heard of any of these people before this comment, and there were some people in the replies of this comment who said Eclipse is not going to have any idea who any of these people are, and you were right. That said, due to the comment, I decided to look into all of these channels. They all seem pretty decent. If you want to check them out, I'll link all of them down below. If you want videos that are even somewhat more resemblant of mine and appear to not just be brainlessly glazing a whole bunch of games that are garbage, then you should check these people out because they seem like cool people. One of the things you've got to understand is that I don't consume any Roblox YouTube content at all. So if someone hasn't sent me something, there is a 99.99% chance I've never seen it. Anyways, that's wrapping up today's video. So naturally, as per usual, if you enjoyed the video, you can leave a like and subscribe, do the cool stuff. If you didn't enjoy the video, you can not do any of that stuff and dislike or whatever. And with that, I'm done. So have a wonderful day wherever you are, and I'll see you guys next time.